Skins. And that's my fault, Ken. Ken, please forgive me. I don't know what I do. Okay, there we go. I realized I didn't even invite you. I went, where's Ken? This is not like Ken. What's going on? And they went, well, number one, it's at 1 a.m. And I went, oh, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So how's everybody today? This is my third business show today. First two went famously well. And this one already has been a little loony, so which is good. I thrive in looniness, which you guys already know. Who wants to introduce themselves first? Does anybody want to put their hand up? Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll go.
All right.
I'm Robert Fail, a research director in enterprise applications and a colleague of the gentleman around me. Looking forward to some conversation today, and who knows where it's going to go.
You never know with Michael, right? So what we're going to do is like what we usually do is I'll let you pick a topic. We'll introduce everybody first. You pick a topic or a question. We'll gnaw on that for a bit. If I feel like it's a little snoozy, I'll jump in and interrupt you with some fun anecdote and basically without hurting your feelings say, we must move on. Okay. So, Ken, you've been through this before. You were unbelievable the first time you came on. So that's a high bar.
Thank you for the nice words.
Yeah. So please just tell us about yourself and we'll proceed.
Yes. So my name's Ken. I'm a senior researcher at Infotech, and I help clients with their operations management. So how do we improve the service desk? How do we improve that culture? How do we improve how the IT department runs and embed some of that playfulness that Michael brings into their culture?
Okay. And anything else you want to share, or you're good right there? That felt like the end. Was that the end?
Yes.
That was the end. I can tell by the polite look. Okay. So, Brian Jackson.
Hi. Right. Yeah, sure. I can go. You saved the least for last, so I can go now. Thank you for that, Michael. So I'm Brian Jackson. I'm also a colleague of these fine folks here at Infotech Research Group. I'm a tech trends analyst, and I host the Tech Insights podcast. I own 2 cats, and I'm a bird photographer hobbyist.
That was good, eh? I felt like we were on the dating game or match game. I can't remember what that is. And
like it's one of those old shows from the 90s, like the video dating shows.
Yeah, was it called Match Game? I think it was.
No idea.
Yeah, you know you're old when.
I don't know if I watched those shows ever, but I've seen them parodied more than I've seen them the actual earnest show.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go with Robert first. Robert, what would you like to discuss? What are we going to chew on first? And then each of you jump in and just,
Wasn't there a dating game on like a TV show where the participants, the catch was they couldn't see each other and they'd be each sitting in like a phone booth. Yes. And then you'd get to interview the person and then the reveal would happen. You'd be like, oh.
Yes.
Let's see who my date is. Now that I've agreed to go out with them or not.
And people would always be hoping the person was good looking, right?
That's what you're hoping for. Yes. Yeah, hoping to score a 10. But it's it was that sort of format is clever because it shows you that the match with your personality and like a compelling sort of person that would hook you based on their intellect and their wit. That's more important than how they look.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, we're going to circle back this wagon. Here we go. So, hi, Robert. How are you? Robert,
I'm good, Michael.
You may now proceed with your first tidbit. So, what would you like to gnaw on for a bit?
How about social responsibility for companies? And the reason I'm bringing this up is I was in an analyst conference, virtual, of course, this week. And the company was all about their social responsibility. In fact, the CEO spent a good hour talking about all the good things they're doing in terms of supporting schools, moving headquarters into rural for quality of life for himself and his staff. And interestingly enough, their theme for the conference, which has been a theme for quite a while, is cowboys. And now they say, we embrace the outlaw mentality and the frontier. And then we have Andy.
Sorry, guys, technical issues. Sorry about that.
Oh, it wasn't the virtual pub crawl last night that didn't affect any of the internet bandwidth or none of that.
It didn't affect it too much. It was a little bit tricky, but it didn't affect it too much.
Okay, good. Okay, all right. Did you hear what he was talking about before he came in? Maybe
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, you'll figure it out.
I was actually talking about the conference that we attended this week virtually, and how they're going on about social responsibility, but then have cowboy theme, which, cowboy not very, you think about it, genocide and misogyny are pretty much what you would now go with the cowboy ethos. So how does a very social responsible company reconcile with that image? And just business in general being social responsibility, you have to take these things into consideration. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are it was a very strange theme to have kind of a cowboy theme, because as you rightly say, cowboy in my head doesn't almost jive with that social responsibility thing. It was kind of weird. But I think what they were saying was good in terms of they were trying to, help different countries to make sure that work was distributed accordingly and, ethical and social responsibility. I think that's a good thing for a company to have. But actually, to be honest, when I joined that conference, it was interesting for me because that's the first time I've ever seen a CEO of a company that big talk about, the underlying ethics and almost belief system behind the company rather than just talking about the products. So it's kind of refreshing to hear that and that perspective.
And what was the company?
It was Zoho.
Zoho. Yeah, I've attended their analyst days before, and their CEO is quite a compelling talker. And of course, they're based in India, so I don't know if just that factor that coming from a different geography makes them a little bit different, because the CEO made a point when he founded that company to keep it local to India, and that they would have the headquarters there. And he's even gone into different communities and created almost a whole new sector of jobs that wouldn't have existed before. We're talking about going into southern farming towns in India and creating knowledge worker level of jobs. And of course they're now like a global software company competing with the likes of Microsoft and Salesforce, and they have a very extensive software suite.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I hear cowboy, I think Wild West. I think to some extent anarchy. We don't have those established institutional power over us. And I think one positive way of spinning that is we don't have those sacred truths being pushed down that do discriminate and do marginalize populations. So there's a sense of we get to reevaluate what those truths are. We get to evaluate what that morality is, and we get to make sure that the morality being pushed by us is something that we believe in and is something that can empower those marginalized groups. So I do definitely see where it is a little bit tricky, but there's a positive aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're going to see more of this going forward, right? As COVID has now proven that working from home works and distributed employees in the company work, I think we're going to see more of talent from different geographical regions that weren't necessarily contributing to before, able to apply for jobs and able to have a distributed workforce across multiple different geographic sectors, which I think is really important. My team, for example, is nobody was born from the same country in my team. In fact, only one person in my team, we're a Canadian company, was actually born in Canada. The rest were born across the world. And I kind of look for that in a team because I want to see the different, the way you're brought up and the way you lived your life before work plays a lot into how you interact and how you think of ideas and things. And having a diverse team like that actually makes a massive difference.
Is it possible for a company to claim it has good corporate social responsibility while also demanding that their employees work in the office within that COVID pandemic context? Is that something that's still possible? Because I still do see many small businesses, small enterprises working in the office, but that comes with a lot of risk from exposure.
And
that's a good
it depends.
question.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends of mine, my brother as well, that has to go to the office to some extent. And that's because he's an engineer and he has to have access to the lab, right? So when you've got situations where you haven't got a choice because the equipment prevents you from staying home all the time, I think that's reasonable. Otherwise, is it reasonable to, make all your employees work from the office, even though that's not technically required of the job? What do you think?
I think that if it's not required, then it shouldn't be mandated by the company at this point. Like,
Right.
certainly not. You have to look at the context of the situation. Like, where is your office located? If you're in Toronto, I believe we have like somewhere around 1,000 or 1,100 cases per day, right? And so that's pretty high. So you wouldn't have. I mean, when we all went home a year ago now, right, in March, and decided to close down the office, there were way fewer cases than there are right now. So, imagine that situation where suddenly, and Infotech is not saying this, right? Infotech is saying we'll be the last one to go back to the office.
Right.
So they're playing it super safe. But imagine it was different, and they said come back to the office tomorrow, because we're tired of this. We want everybody back in the office. It wouldn't make any sense, because you would say, well, if we went home, if we were all working from home when there were 300 cases of COVID a day in Toronto, now there's 3 times that. So you have to look at the context of the situation. You have to take case counts and what the actual risk is into consideration.
Did everybody chew on that enough? Is there more chewing that needs to be done on that bone, or can I jump to another world?
I think
Michael,
I think there is one last perspective I'd like to bring to that.
Okay, see,
Michael,
this is why it's good to ask. Of course, that's why I'm here. Okay, go.
So there's a reality TV show, the Rupaul's Drag Race, where they are still filming on location with their cast, and that there's a huge corporate social responsibility angle from this. We're creating this positive atmosphere, and they've been able to engineer it, and they've put in so much effort into how the show is being run in order to minimize the risk for every contestant on that show and the hosts of the show. So, I do think the context component of that is huge. If we can't just blatantly say everyone coming back in the office is bad, but let's look at what that net positive is, as long as we're protecting the people who are attending.
Absolutely. I think another example is the Tom Cruise. It happened about a month ago now, where Tom Cruise got angry because there's a couple of people that didn't have masks on sitting behind a monitor right next to each other. And he kind of lost it and said, what the hell? We're paying a massive amount of money. We're making 3,000 people are now employed because we come to a studio and we're safe. And you guys are joking around? What the hell? Which I think was completely reasonable.
Andy, that reminded me a lot of my grandmother when she used to go, oh, sugar and oh, fudge. I think you didn't do it exactly the way I saw it, or maybe I imagined it a different way. Okay, have we chewed on that? Can we go in a different direction now? Is
Sure.
Okay. So I've been noticing, and it's funny I'm going to bring this up within this room, Zoom fatigue. Is it a real thing? Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think depending on how you do it, in situations like this, perhaps where you're looking at yourself I find that much more exhausting whenever possible. If I can shut down the view of myself, then it's easier to work with, because you realize, one, when you're looking at yourself, the silly tics that you have. And you try and correct them, so you're busy post movement trying to correct something that's already happened, which sets up a funny thing in your head. So yeah, I think it's a thing that it can be difficult and exhausting. Not to mention just staring at a computer. Even if you've got faces there, you're still just staring at your screen for hours on end.
Yeah, I totally agree with Robert there. And there's, what I miss about going into the Masonic Temple and coming together with my colleagues is just that certain energy you get from making a human connection. And it's great that we can connect with each other like this on video conference and see each other every day. I can still see and talk to the people I work with, but it's not the same. It's not the same fidelity as getting together in person. There's so much unconscious sort of body language and just having the presence of people there together, bumping into each other in the hallways at the building. So much is lost from that human interaction when you can't get together in person, that video conferencing will never be able to replace.
And that really adds.
Stacy's in the house. This is important. We say this. She's there. She's recognizing the full essence and beauty of this room in the moment. So I didn't want to stop that. She was an absolute rock star. They all were, actually, in that broadcast that we did. Stacy, I think that has 750 views already. So, something magical was going on. This here is some people who really enjoy each other's company. You can tell we're having fun here. I don't know if we'll hit 750. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's a high bar. That's a high bar.
Well, unless we get Randy W. Horton in here, and then it'll be an absolute I can't say anything. Okay, I'm going to be good. Okay. So where were we before I interrupted? Go ahead.
Yeah, that really adds to the Zoom fatigue, Michael. Stacy walked into the room, and if this was in person, I'd be able to feed off of Stacy's energy, but I can't see Stacy's face. I just did a week-long consulting engagement where it was only me and my co-consultant, co-facilitator, who were video sharing all of my funny jokes. I couldn't hear anyone laughing. I couldn't see anyone chuckling because they had their camera turned on. And I think that really adds to Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very valid point.
Yeah, I think I've had the situation before because, well, first of all, I'm a very extrovert, as you can tell, kind of guy. So I'll, in the office, slap people on the back and push people and have fun and, do silly things. That's kind of what I do. So I miss that a lot. Humans, I think, have to physically interact as well. We're kind of those naturally biological beings that have to kind of, nudge each other and stuff. Hey, Ari.
Hey there.
I think that's a big thing that I'm missing. But also, as you say, you can't get a response back. We have calls at InfoTech. We have calls every day with clients across the world. And sometimes it's difficult to get feedback, especially if they don't put the video on. So you crack a joke or something, or you explain something. It's like, how was that? Yep. Give me more, something. I need something feedback because otherwise you kind of can't continue the conversation. It's not a conversation, it's a lecture. And that's what I don't like to do.
Ari, you may have to turn your microphone down. You're coming in like AC/DC after Dolly Parton. Okay. All right. There you go.
That's better.
Yeah. Can you sing a little song first, and then I'll know? I'm only kidding. Okay.
We're just talking about Zoom fatigue, Ari.
Right.
It's been a big theme here. And what are your thoughts on Zoom fatigue? Have you kind of come across that and experienced it? And how are you feeling about it?
So, actually, it's interesting. Zoom fatigue at first, I felt within the first 6 months, I suffered it pretty badly.
You may want to turn it up just slightly or put it closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So, suffered a fair bit of Zoom fatigue at first, pretty significantly. And then probably about, I'll say if March is the dawn of sort of our Zoom life, and by the summer, I really was sick of it. But then after that, I got used to it. So I kind of, I think I'm get moody in terms of my Zoom fatigue. Right now, I'm kind of used to it. I'm fine with it. Figured it out. As long as people have their webcams on, as long as I can sort of look into your eyes, it's easier. It's very difficult to. And again, I think I came in the middle of what you were saying, Andy. When they don't have their webcams on, it's rough. When the other people don't have their webcams on, I really don't like that. I mean, in the class that I teach on the side, I mean, I pretty much insist webcams are on because I can't tell how it's going. I can't tell if what I'm doing is landing. I can't tell anything. And even the same thing with our workshops too, though it's harder to enforce that in the workshop for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
But for me, it's I can mitigate the Zoom fatigue just purely with being able to look into your eyes and sort of make a connection with you.
Yeah, it is incredibly isolating if you go into a room and you're the only one that has your camera on. I mean, what I've started doing is I'll match what my fellow video conference people are doing. If they all come in and everybody's camera is off, well, I'm not going to be the only one with the camera on. That's just not fair, right? It's not a fair sort of exchange. So I'll turn mine off in that situation, so I don't feel like I'm in the spotlight there.
That's interesting, actually. Sorry, Mike. I was going to say I took a decision when we first went on to these streaming platforms that I will always have my camera on. Doesn't matter whether the recipients don't or not, and I always do that. So at any meeting at work, you will never ever catch me without my camera on in any meeting. So whether it's a meeting with 300 people because it's a town hall, or whether it's a meeting with my team and I. I'm kind of a leader in infotech. I kind of want to try and coach people to put cameras on because it's a better experience anyway. So it's partly that, but it's also partly that I want to be really comfortable in having my camera on all times and just make it part of life. And I kind of decided that for myself early, and it kind of worked for me because now me having my camera on, especially if I don't see myself, I don't really notice. So I just act as normal, and it's okay.
Yeah, same here. Webcam's always on, regardless of whether they have theirs on or not.
Right. Here's the thing: if you don't have the camera on, they can't get the full essence of you, right? And then you also welcome them to have their camera on, and then you can read the body cues. And everybody in here is somewhat intuitive, and you can learn, by the way people gesture or even the surroundings around them, what's going on. You can tell their stress level. It's key. If you have a room and it's just a picture, unless you are, completely intuitive, good luck. So where are we going with this, guys? What's next? Who wants to go in another direction now? Who wants to be next to come up with a topic?
I've got a question for Andy. You mentioned you lead a team here at Infotech. How do you do team bonding without being in person?
That's a good question. We just had the other day excuse me. We had the other day a kind offer from our CEO to say, we'd like you to celebrate. We'd like you to, have a team event of some sort. We'll cover the costs and do something together as a team and have some fun. It was really difficult. We spent like an hour thinking about how are we going to do something together, not in person. It's really difficult to do team building like that. Ideas of whiskey tasting or chocolate tasting or I don't know, having a meal together and stuff. But it's kind of awkward. You're eating your meal and talking to people on the screen. That'll be kind of weird. So it's very difficult to figure out a way to bond with people properly on a Teams meeting. And I'm the kind of guy as well that when I was in the office, I used to take my team, every week almost, we would be in the pub, just having an informal get together and chat and stuff, because I think it's really important to bond on a personal level with your teammates to make sure that when it comes to, when it hits the fan and you're at work and you're really stressed, you're comfortable at sharing your vulnerabilities with people. And you're okay at, having an argument as long as it's constructive. I think that's really important in a team. So I really miss the in-personness of being able to do that. And I'm stuck. I'm up for ideas of people in this room. If anybody's got ideas of what to do as a team to kind of bring people together over Zoom, it's hard.
The problem with Zoom in terms of that kind of bonding is, I can't you can't, as a manager, force everyone's computer into Zoom exclusive mode. right? You're always going to have your email client open on the side. You're always going to have you're shopping on Amazon because your kid needs something or whatever the case may be. You're never truly focused, in the moment. And that's really the, when I think about the weakness of all of this, it's that, when you have somebody in a room, in a classroom, you have somebody in a facilitation room, they're focused on, hopefully, as long as you've banned laptops, they're focused on you, they're focused on the room. And so that's where that becomes a real challenge. I wish I had a solution for that. I actually don't.
Exactly.
A game can be a good way to focus people's attention. Like a popular thing to do now for work teams is to do one of these virtual escape rooms. Or what I've been doing with my friends during this pandemic, because you can't get together in person with your social friends either. But we'll go on and play these Jackbox games. I don't know if anybody else has played those, but imagine, we were all here together and you had another screen and it would play like a trivia game or wordplay game or something like that. And you could play along by connecting with your smartphone. So you're playing the game on your smartphone, you're looking at the screen, and usually it's a funny game. It makes people draw pictures, it makes people tell jokes. So that's a great way to have some laughs, and it keeps the attention on the screen. It keeps the momentum of the occasion going.
Yes, the Jackbox item is huge. My team's doing that this Friday coming up. We're going to be playing the Trivia Murder Hotel Party version 2. We also have done Quiplash together previously as
that's one of the best ones.
Oh, I really like the Trivia Murder Party because I'm competitive, but the Quiplash is hilarious because you get to lightly roast your teammates. It's like, what did Andy Neal gift to his grandmother? And then you get to say something funny there. It's enjoyable.
Nice. Robert, share something. Get in there.
All right. Actually, what I was thinking about, one of our colleagues for the suggestion on what to do as a team came up with, and it's something he'd done with his neighbors, drag queen bingo. So something, totally different, not what you'd really expect. So I'm thinking that it could be fun just because it's sort of off the normal track of escape room or trivia or whatever. It'd be a little more entertainment than the standard game. But I think that could be fun.
I'm willing to broadcast that on Habs if anybody's open.
So does every team member dress up in drag for that and you play bingo together?
I don't know, but
imagine introvert's worst nightmare.
Yeah, that.
I think the other thing that I've done recently, which you'll probably start noticing, is I've got a little one. I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and she often kind of wants to see me during the day and stuff, and I'm on calls with clients and that kind of thing. And previously, I've kind of said, when Daddy's on a call, just try not to burst in the room because obviously I'm presenting and things. But now I'm kind of, everybody knows we're working at home. We have a family, we have a life. So I kind of say to her, you know what? Unless I'm presenting to 400 people, come in, disturb me. It doesn't matter. So sometimes she'll come in while I'm on a team meeting with 10 people, and you'll see me get taken out of frame because she'll launch herself at me, kind of thing. And it's kind of fun, and I don't mind that. It kind of shows that you are a real person, you have a family, and it's just a thing that we do. So it's okay, I think.
Can we do a segue from there, guys, for just a sec? It's something we discussed earlier today on show number 1. This is show number 3, by the way, today of business. We've done 3 of them.
Zoom fatigue for Michael.
Every time. Well, you want to talk about Zoom fatigue? That was when I was doing calls. That's all I was doing. I was doing 10 to 12 calls a day, every day, reaching out to everyone. So yeah, that got intense at times. But
I missed that, Mike.
Yeah, well,
nice.
I really like that too. Really,
but see, here's the great thing, though. We're doing this now. We're sharing the essence of this beautiful group right here, visually stunning, and everyone's IQ is going to go up for sure after this. Like, here you go. When you have such gifts, you have to share them with the universe. We were sharing them with no one, And Brian, when I do that, he wants to strangle me, but that's okay.
Well,
So
Mike loves talking up his colleagues, so God bless him for it. But sometimes it goes a little bit too far. Like Michael, I've
me,
heard you compare several analysts to the
Celine
promise
Dion.
that a young Celine Dion had. Is this thing? I'm like,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
a
a
bit.
once in a
That's a bit
lifetime
out there.
talent. Yeah,
That's a bit
I
out
don't
there.
think
Yeah.
anybody's getting their own show in Vegas anytime soon. That's all.
Well, you know what? You can't put a roof on this, brother. You can't put a roof on it. Like, yeah, you can basically do anything you want.
You're a
But
dreamer, Mike. I love it.
we are so blessed in this room. All of us are still working. We're not struggling. We're all doing the warm, dry fed. And there's a segue here. You were talking about family, but the children are going through a great deal of stress right now because they do not have their old life of a year ago. And it's causing some mental issues. Can we address that? Is anybody open to gnawing on that for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mind talking about it with my own kids. 15-year-old going on 16, 11-year-old going on 22, little girl, and she's like, wow. But anyways, it manifests differently in each of them. I would say that probably my son is handling it a little bit better. Perhaps some of that is because of age, but there's an intensity. There's something that he's lost because he's kind of in this bubble and not going out of that. He's not outwardly affected, but I can see he's affected. My daughter, on the other hand, really needs that in-person contact. Like, she craves that. That's her thing. Like, even at in terms of learning, I mean, the remote learning is really challenging for her. I mean, she's creative, she's bright, and she's bright in very, very interesting ways. But I mean, it flourishes when you're in front of somebody. Like, this remote learning does not work for her. So as soon as the school opened back up, said go back, she was back in class because she absolutely needed it. And I can already see that she's better because she's back and just talking with other people.
I think from my point of view with Eva, it was interesting. My daughter, she's 9, as I say. So she's doing she's transitioning now to the TikToks and Roblox and those kind of online platforms where you kind of post things and get likes and get followers, and she's into that world. And just the other day, actually, it's interesting. I had a video call with my dad and stepmom who live in Ottawa, and they're obviously self-isolating. But they were in the police force. My stepmom was in the OPP, and she was responsible for all of the horribleness that goes on with child rings and that kind of stuff. So she did a lot of crime work in those areas. So she's very aware of what happens with children online. And she was kind of trying, in a nice way, she was talking to Eva and saying, look, sometimes your friends that you see online, if you don't met them in person, they might not be what you think they are. And although they might try and be friends with you, and she was talking through all these things, and it's really important to kind of teach your kids what can be out there on the web. I see so many horrific stories of depression and bullying and that kind of thing especially when you post things and the comments come back and likes and dislikes and that kind of thing. It's really important to teach children. I'm even seeing it on TV now being broadcast of this is something to be aware of. We should look at that. So that's going through my mind right now, and I'm constantly thinking about what can I do better and what can I do more to make sure she's aware of this stuff and keep her safe.
Can I address something while we're here? Because we do the bullying thing. Were any of you guys bullied as kids? Were you bullied?
Very, very much so.
Yes.
Very much.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I unfortunately was the bully, believe it or not. I was not a very nice person when I was younger. I had the nice side, and you could still see it. There's a bit of the smart ass in there still, But I used to work things out through being physical or being mean. Those were the two avenues when I was really young. And I'm talking, up to the age of 10. And then I kind of started thinking, maybe this may not work anymore. But I think a lot of times when you have a bully, there's some kind of lack at home, or they're mimicking maybe some behaviors they've seen. And I think we need to start to have schooling, some form of assessments on children who need that. Because as you can see, because fundamentally I always had the nice side in me. But when I was younger, I dealt with my rage and my, through fist, right? And words. And now I just talk about Celine Dion. That's how
This is where that's. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the schools today do a much better job of handling conflict and communication than they ever did in our day. Now, Ken and Brian are younger, so even Andy are younger, but definitely what I saw when my kids were going through the efforts and the learning around emotional intelligence and communication, collaboration, and just conflict resolution was stuff I didn't learn until I was in my 30s. And I wish I'd learned it at a much younger age. My life might have been a little easier. So it's definitely there. But it also comes down to, we ended up pulling my son out of a public school because he's being bullied by a teacher. And the principal wasn't supporting us. So
wow.
There's still stuff going on. It's an ongoing battle.
Yes. Robert, we're going to switch gears again. We've got Stacy in here. I think she's nicely saying to us we're doing the warm fuzzy feeling Michael broadcast. Let's go back onto the business thing here, and don't be mesmerized by the great Oz in the room, who is not even in the scope. Okay, go ahead. So can someone read that, please?
When it comes to instilling the necessary skills for artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, what are your thoughts on making sure students or even working professionals have a humanities background or humanities course? I think that's like I studied social sciences in university, and the social theory, the political theory gave me a lens that I do definitely bring to the conversations that I have at work and the conversations I have with my clients. It brings a really unique way of thinking and it brings a lot of information that can be very beneficial for that, background and for those conversations, just another perspective. So I think it's very beneficial to study that humanities side. I think it's very beneficial to study that.
Yeah, I agree with Ken. Definitely it adds to the education. I mean, the broader your education can be, the more you can offer in the workplace. And but I would say that what's most important about considering artificial intelligence and how it'll impact the human outcomes when you're actually applying it in different scenarios. It's not like one person has to be responsible for all of that. So, we can demand like, oh, are you an AI scientist? Yes, I am. Okay, well, you're one of very few people available to be on the market, but do you also have a working knowledge of the Shakespearean works? Oh, no? Okay, well, I can't hire you in that case. You can be too demanding about what one person can bring to your team. And what I would say is you need more of a team that brings an even balance to that sort of diversity of knowledge to the situation, and also just think about that process of what are the human outcomes and how would it affect people from different backgrounds if we actually implemented these different algorithms.
So let me so it's it's important for AI, but I would say in even broader, any technology leadership role, I would say, or any technology role, I would say, you are very best served by having at least an appreciation for the humanities in some way. Not saying you need to have read the following 17 books or anything of the sort here, but to have that background actually does produce better outcomes, to a point where when I was used to interview people, to look to hire people for leadership roles, product management roles, or just even on the ground kind of roles, I mean, I cared much more about sort of their critical thinking, the way they balance different approaches, those soft skills, as opposed to softer skills, I'll call it. And soft doesn't mean less important, as opposed to, do they know technology X or Y? That is important, but I have found when I have prioritized those, I generally got worse outcomes from the people that I hired. And there, I have a couple examples just in my head that it's just, mistakes that I made in hiring because I didn't focus on, really looking at those, that humanities side, that what humanities style courses teach you. And so, I would say that absolutely, encouraging that in terms of the computer science programs and any of the technology programs, that it's not just the humanities courses and just your bird course that you do in first year, but it's something that you take maybe a critical one every year, so that, so that you're continually having that conversation in your own head every year with what you're doing and how it applies to society. How does it make things better? How does it make things worse? And especially in AI, I mean, where you're going to start running into issues of morality and ethics very, very quickly. Having that understanding, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having the technical knowledge. We need those people with that, like, really, who are ultra smart in that regard, but they need to temper that with sort of, how do I identify as human beings? How do we want to be? What kind of society do we want? And so I really like the question from Stacey.
And
Stacey,
before the
we
pandemic,
appreciate that. We appreciate that. Let's all say to Stacey, we appreciate this moment in time. Thank you. No, nobody else?
Before the pandemic, when I would go to undergraduate student mixers for like networking events, I would always really stress the digital humanities field and the computational social sciences field, because I would go to events hosted by humanities groups and hosted by social sciences groups and say, this is an area where you can either as an academic get a lot of funding or professionally get some attention to, is this area. And there's a lot more of the structure built out, where as a humanities academic or as a social sciences researcher, you're able to investigate and start dealing with these problems of analytics and data science and AI, and doing it within a space where you feel comfortable, in a space where you have a lot of deep body of knowledge, and it allows you to differentiate yourself a little bit more. It's a very interesting field.
Does anybody want to chew on this question? Don't read it out loud, please, but just read Edward's comment here. So as a business owner, so that one there, can you read it in your head?
I'm asking for clarification because I would like to know.
Okay, before we answer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's you're getting at something, and it's important, but I would love to get a little bit of follow-up.
Yeah, Edward, we're not ignoring you. It's just there's 5 people in the room, even I'm in the back. So
what I could say about that, because as the host of Tech Insights, I get the privilege of having so many great conversations with smart analysts at Infotech. And for Black History Month, I've been talking to analysts that have been putting out some really interesting looks at how to hire and retain people of color. You guys know Ugbad Farah and Alison Straker were working on that topic. And in that conversation, they pointed out that, of course, the way you present and the color of your skin does affect everything that you interact with in life. And, you can't escape it, but it's about being conscious of where does that bias seep in. And if you're in the situation where you're hiring somebody, you're fortunate enough to run a business or be involved in the hiring process at the business, just think about what avenues am I going to find the talent, right? If you go to the same avenues that you always go to, the traditional sources, and limit yourself to people that are like you, people that you tend to interact with and include in that sort of consideration, well, you're not going to probably draw the most diverse set of candidates possible. So what their blueprint does is it lays out the ways that you can sort of challenge yourself and extend who you're considering in that process. What sort of ways can you get diverse candidates into your talent pipeline? And then once you've done that, how do you remove bias from the interview process and reinforce their likelihood to stay with your organization because you're supporting them in the right ways?
Let me give you a riff on that for a second, Brian. Let me give you a concrete example of what I do. If I'm going through a stack of resumes, I'm very conscious. Again, I like to think I'm a decent human being and I don't have these crazy bad racist biases on me here, but just for my own self, just to make sure I'm absolutely not including any bias, I actually don't look at the names at all. I don't look at the name of the person. I just look at the resumes and then I put it in either no or yes or maybe based on that, and then only later will I look at the names. bias as a way of just because certain ethnic groups and certain people of certain communities have certain kinds of names. So trying to remove that bias from the way I look at it, just so that I can say up front that as a white person, I'm doing my best to try not to include biases in that regard, and looking at really the content of that resume as a way to sort of as sort of an immediate thing that I try to do.
That's such a great step. And because it starts with a name, right? As soon as you read a name, or as soon as you see a picture of a person, all those unconscious biases start at work, right? Is it familiar to you? Do you trust that name implicitly because it's the same name of your friend or your brother or whatever? But that's exactly the sort of thing that you have to do to be able to say that you've done things without bias.
Brian, we have another question from the same individual, Edward. Edward is he actually owns a mortuary, and he's a very kind gentleman. He reminds me of Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and Anthony Robbins, or all in one, or Earl Nightingale. He is deep in wisdom, and if we didn't have 6 people in the room, I'd bring him up and get him to talk to you. But in the future, you'll see him, especially if you guys keep putting your toe in the pond. You'll be able to feel his love resonate throughout the universe. He is a wonderful man. He's not coming from a place of trying to rattle you. So I just wanted you to know that.
I've seen him on your channel before, Michael. He's a very decent fellow.
Yes. Okay. So you don't know, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say, his question implies that we have processes. Those around me may agree that we may be lacking some processes. So it's hard to actually answer that question.
Let me go ahead, please.
I would add, Edward, that it's important that you get feedback from the people who work at your company, feedback from stakeholders within the community. What can I do in order to be more inclusive? What can I do to help address these prejudices? And like, I'm a white male, a white cisgender male, so I can't speak to the experiences of people of color or people of the trans community. But what Infotech started to do was to reach out to members of the workforce and say, as dear LGBT folks who work here, what has your experience been? Where have there been where has there been a disconnect? Where have there been prejudices and marginalization and discrimination within the organization? And just reaching out to get that feedback and then acting on that feedback has been very beneficial for starting to address some of those anti-LGBT prejudices and discrimination within the organization. And they've done the same with people of color and Black and Indigenous people within the organization, reached out to them and started to get their input on how they can improve where there has been discrimination. That's a great way to make sure that your business processes support both that mission statement as well as corporate social responsibility.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
I've had a lot of background in this, and it's interesting because obviously you can't see me now. I'm a 6'5" white British guy, and that's unfortunately. I mean, it's fortunate for me in my career because, of course, people believe everything you say immediately. But you have to be very careful of that because I'll step into a room and I'll say anything. People will automatically look at me and believe me by default. And I've been conscious of this for many years. And I lived in the Caribbean for a few years, being the only white guy on the island for 3 years. So I've been in different situations on both sides. And my wife is Indian descent. And we used to work together with the same company. And we used to be in meetings together. And we would do little kind of tests together. Like, she would say something in the meeting, completely valid, really good idea at the start of a meeting. And then during the meeting, it would go on, and I would say deliberately exactly the same idea in the same words later in the meeting. And they would say, Andy, brilliant idea, let's do that, when they dismissed her idea completely at the start. And it's really sad that these kind of things happen. So I'm super conscious of it, and I don't like the way people do that. And I've actually now started calling it out, which is really difficult to do. Because when those things happen, and I see them in a meeting, I will say, why didn't you say that when that person said it earlier? And people get, whoa, blimey, I didn't realize that. But it's only when you start to call these things out in meetings and be sensible about this that you change people's biases and the way people are thinking. And that's really important to do. And I think we should all be doing that. I don't think that should be taboo anymore. It should be commonplace to say we should all be treated equally. It doesn't matter where we are, where we're from, what color we are, whatever it might be.
So I just need a second here because we're coming up to 50 minutes. We could do 5 hours with this group. I know we could. And it would go on, and we do every subject known to man, and I probably wouldn't sleep that night from all the subjects we shouldn't have done. But so what I want you to do, if you can, folks, is someone say what they're grateful for, then beam down. Then the next person say what they're grateful for, beam down. Do you understand? That's the Star Trek term. Anybody doesn't? Okay. All right. So who wants to be first? Anybody?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm grateful for the vaccine program in the UK. So most of my family's back in the UK, right? And my folks are elderly, and I've got lots of family that are over there that are elderly and vulnerable. And the vaccine program has been rolled out so quickly that, like, my parents in England are vaccinated, my cousins, my aunties and uncles, they're all vaccinated now. They're all done because they've rolled it out so quickly. And I'm just thankful that they've got the rollout that quick, so they're protected now. They're much less, less at risk. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that actually we've got this wonderful vaccine now, and it's rolling out considerably. I just wish it would go faster so we could save more lives.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Who wants to be next?
I'll go. And I think today I'll be grateful for my children for keeping me honest and teaching me every day that I've been blessed with two very smart individuals who challenge me at many points in my life. But every day they teach me something new. For that, I'm grateful.
Okay, perfect. Who wants to go next?
I can jump in.
Okay, jump in, brother.
I'm grateful for you, Michael Bathurst, for bringing us all together for these wonderful HAPS live streams and making me think that I could be comparable to somebody like Celine Dion.
You are, buddy. Don't you worry. And at the end of your life, it'll be even better, more glorious. I guarantee it. So listen, I can come up now too. There we go. All right, there we go. Hello, here I am in the background. Yes, indeed. I've been here the whole time. Yes. So everyone that's here, thank you so much for being here today. This is my third business show today. They've all been uniquely different, and we had absolutely no script. Zero script today. And look at where we went, right? So Stacy, sometimes we have to just trust the format, and we have to trust the magic that's found here on HAPS. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Edward, for being here with us today. And Edward's such an awesome person. Ken, do you want to go next on the gratitude?
I'm thankful for this discussion. I'm thankful for the space, and I'm very thankful for everyone who's watching right now.
Yes, thank you for being here, and thank you for getting through 3 business shows today. I totally appreciate it. And we hope to have some of these wonderful people doing their own broadcasts within their own channels, and you'll have these rich, amazing relationships with all of them. And Ken, thank you for coming up again. You're awesome. Ari, your turn.
All right. No, I'm thankful for the space that we have to have these discussions. I would agree with that, and that's that we can talk about this in a safe way or in a way that isn't deemed as suspicious, and because these are important topics and tough topics require challenging discussions, and so very much appreciative for the forum.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Listen to everyone who is currently doing HAPS and is part of the community. Ari's here all the time as well. Him and I are, and Hans is so incredibly supportive to my my vision, and he is like the rock of all my broadcasts. Today I couldn't bring him in too because we had so many people. Now, here's the thing you run the risk of. When you have 5 or 6 people in the room, you can lose the broadcast. It keeps fading in and fading out. So if I could have invited 8 or 10 people, I would have gladly done it. But HAPS isn't quite there yet, or it's my computer, one or the other. Right. But listen, we hope to see you very soon. May you have a glorious Sunday. And I really want to thank all the people that were on the shows earlier today. Stacy was in the show. Andy was in today. Brian Jackson. Robert was here. Ari was here. So, and in the earlier shows, we had Fred and we had John and we had Hans and we had Carmi and we had AJ. So, wow, what a lineup. And thank you for all the support and the donations and the beautiful comments. And if we didn't get to you, please don't take it personally. It's just, it was a little crazy today. But I guarantee you, when I have my own broadcast again, which I'm going to do a shameless plug on, every morning that I can get up between 6:30 and 7:30, I will run a wonderful morning inspirational show. And everybody is welcome. And the community there is absolutely fantastic. Thank you to Mark, who was in the second broadcast today, who really went through some rapid fire questions. He handled himself in such a gentlemanly manner, and I feel very blessed to have him as a friend. Have a glorious Sunday, and may you feel blessed.